All right, well, welcome everybody to the Tech Titan Webinar Wednesday series with Intermedia. And I want to thank you for joining us and taking time out of your busy day to attend today's webinar. My name is Kim Withrow. I'm the manager of the sales engineering team here at Intermedia. And today we're going to be covering managed contacts with integrated Unite/Elevate apps. But before we get started, I just want to do a little technical check-in and make sure that everybody can hear me. So if you wouldn't mind clicking on the emoji at the top center of your screen and give me a thumbs up like Brad just did. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Okay, good. Looks like we are all systems go here. Thank you very much for that. So Intermedia's Webinar Wednesday is a really popular series of webinars that takes place actually every Wednesday. It's broken up into 3 separate tracks, which you can actually see on the screen here. The first one is called the Business Builder track, and it's designed to help you as a partner grow your business and your success with Intermedia. Then we also have the Tech Titan track, which today's webinar is a part of, and it's designed to give you live demos and deep technical dives into features that can bring real value to you and your customers. So these 2 tracks, the Business Builder and the Tech Titan track, they alternate on Wednesdays, and they both happen at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And then last but not least, of course, we have our CCAS, which is our Contact Center as a Software training, which actually takes place every Wednesday at 12:30 Pacific time. So between all 3 of these tracks, you can actually attend 2 webinars each Wednesday. To get more information or to register, you can go to the https://intermediawebinars.com, and that will give you the information on the upcoming webinars as well as links to register. All right, and I just want to take some time to let you know that I'd like to hear from you. We created the Tech Titan trainings to provide information that you as a partner will find hopefully valuable and a good use of your time. And so I'd like to get some topic suggestions from folks. Right now, what we're doing is we're just kind of thinking of ideas and, thinking, hey, we think the partners will want to learn about this or hear more about this. But I really would like to hear from partners. So if you have any ideas or feedback that you would like to provide, please go ahead and email techtitan@intermedia.net, and we'll do our best to cover everything that is sent in to us. Now, you already used some of these features, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands how the webinar works. We're going to take about 30 minutes of your time, with about 15 minutes of that will be for the presentation and 15 minutes for the Q&A. You already used a little emoji button at the top center of your screen on the left-hand side. If you have any questions, please click on that blue question mark square in the top center of your screen. That's going to open up a little dialog box that sends the question over to me. And then I'll go ahead and run through those questions with Aaron at the end of the webinar, and we'll get through as many of those as we have time to do. All right, a couple other quick little things. We're going to talk about the Unite certification process. So that process only takes a couple of hours to complete, and it gives you everything that you need to start selling Intermedia Elevate right away. So to access it and to sign up for the training, you simply log into your partner portal, click on Intermedia University, and then click on that orange Get Certified button. Now, the Get Certified button moves around sometimes on the screen, but it's always this big orange button, so it should be fairly easy for you to find. And then once you're Unite certified, I also want to make sure that everybody is aware of our NFR account. So you as a partner are eligible to sign up for an NFR or a Not for Resale account. This is an account that gives you the ability to use Intermedia products for yourself, for your own company, at a steep discount or even sometimes free. So, at Intermedia, we really believe that one of the best ways to sell a product is to understand it, obviously, and the best way to understand it is to use it yourself. So if you're interested in signing up for an NFR account and you don't currently have one, you can call the number on the screen, or I'm actually going to start a quick poll here. And what that's going to do is I'll log those questions there and everybody's responses. And so if you would like to have an account manager contact you about setting up the NFR account, please go ahead and click yes here, or if you don't, you can say no, or I already have an NFR account is obviously a great response as well. Okay, I'm just going to leave that poll up for one more second. Make sure everybody has a chance to reply if they want to. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that. Thank you very much for your participation there. Just starting up the slideshow here again. All right, now last but not least, just want to introduce myself and Aaron Roberts. So as I mentioned, my name is Kim Withrow. I'm the manager of the sales engineering team at Intermedia. I'm actually coming up on my 10-year anniversary at Intermedia. I started over as a level 2 tech support engineer and then moved up into management over there and worked on the data onboarding team for a long time. And then I moved over and started managing the sales engineering team just a little over 3 years ago. It was a great move and I've really enjoyed it. I got to work with people like Mr. Aaron Roberts, who you see here on the screen as well. Aaron has been with Intermedia for a little bit over 3 years now. But prior to that, he worked for, over 2 decades in both the voice and the networking field. So he's really got a lot of technical know-how, and he was critical, really, to the development of the Elevate product. And he works with partners daily to support their selling from a technical perspective. If you've been on any of these Tech Titan webinars, you've already met Aaron and seen his demoing skills. So, with that, Aaron, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, and thank you, Kim, and thank you, everybody, for joining today. One of the things I've recently done on my computer is been upgraded to Windows 10, and I've yet to figure out how to hide my taskbar when I share my alternate screen. So you'll see that at the top of this presentation today, which traditionally I'd try to have that not there. Also, I'd like to say with a little bit of humor, I noticed today that a lot of people had put this smiley emoticon, and I hovered over it, and I never really noticed before, but the emoticon is labeled as fine. So if you all are just fine to be here, I'm okay with that, but I think some of you probably meant to be more of a smiley face than just fine. But I'll leave that there for you all to think about, because today we have an exciting topic that you'll probably think is just fine, and that is the topic of contacts within Unite and the different types of contacts and how are contacts brought into the system, how are personal contacts different than other sorts of contacts like business contacts in Unite. And while this topic may seem a little bit dry, it's an important one because the topic comes up enough for us to have flagged it as one that we thought would be worthy of a webinar. That's just for everyone's sake on the call, how often it comes up. So first and foremost, there's really 2 different types of contacts, and there's not a lot of visuals along with this initial part of the conversation. I might highlight some points here in a minute, but first and foremost, there's 2 different types of contacts, and I already alluded to them. One is business contact and one is a personal contact. Within the Unite desktop application, or the, for that matter, the Elevate desktop application, which I've now put onto the screen, we have the ability within the receptionist view easily to see the different contacts built onto the receptionist view filter. And first we could see we have Unite users. These are going to be business contacts with the Unite service enabled. Then we'll have company contacts. These are going to be contacts that are not Unite enabled, but will also include the Unite enabled company contacts. And again, this is a business contact. And then the last tab we'll see here is the personal contacts. And the personal contacts are going to be, this will be the only place that we see them here in the desktop application with regard to an individual filter of all personal contacts. So business contacts obviously are pre-populated by the creation of a Unite user to then be filterable by Unite users. And from the Unite user, when we click in on the actual icon of the user, we can see some information like their associated phone numbers and the ability to change one from primary to secondary phone number and the ability to call those numbers and so on. This is useful to filter on those folks who maybe you want to chat with, or you want to, because you can also instigate a messaging to them if they're a Unite user. However, company contacts like hunt groups and conference room phones and IVRs and lots of other objects that aren't users, that don't have chat capability and don't have the need for anything but the ability to call and have a contact, are going to be then listed under the company contacts. Here's an example of the sales hunt group on this particular demonstration company. And note that there's no ability to chat with this, of course, because they're not a Unite user. But the Unite users that are on the system, of course, still do have that filter here where they're able to chat and launch that from the company contacts. So business contacts span both of these two filters. When we're wanting to create business contacts, uh, we'll want to either create the users within Unite, which is a pretty straightforward process most folks are familiar with, and we're not going to get into it only because it's a topic that's well covered. But once a user is created as a user for the system, then they'll be participants in the company contact that we saw filtered a moment ago. However, if we want to just have a shared contact list that aren't necessarily users that's available to all of our users, then we would want to come into our host pilots interface, navigate to the services tab here at the top, and then choose down here the company contacts that's listed, in fact, under the email subheading versus the Unified Communications Unite subheading. So maybe a little bit confusing, but in any case, the company contacts that were listed here are going to be the same place that we're able to create then company contacts that will be available within the Unite and Elevate application. And unsurprisingly, you'll be able to do a mass import with CSV up to 200 at a time. We can do with contacts. And the template's available that if you downloaded it, looks like a standard object template that you would expect to see for these sorts of items like display names, addresses, phone numbers. You don't need any of this information besides a display name and a phone number for it to actually show up inside the Unite application, because the other information would not be relevant to its role to take and make phone calls with regard to users. In any case, you can have up to 200 imported at a time from this CSV file, and is one method of creating company contacts. You can do it one-off, where you're just creating an individual contact at a time, which is often valuable if you just have one or two contacts that we need to have added. However, if you're also a user, or if your customer is a user of the user pilot application, which is the synchronization tool that resides on a domain server and then sends different organizational unit information back and forth to host pilot, that can be configured in such a way that it then sends essentially any of your contacts that you want to have. And then that would make for an automatic creation of company contacts available that would be listed here. And then ultimately they'd be available inside the desktop application, as highlighted by the company contact tab here in the receptionist view. But also they would be available inside the mobile applications on iPhone and Android, where those contacts would synchronize to that. I'm going to pause just a moment because there's a lot of chat going on, and I just want to take a peek at it real quick.
Yeah, one of the questions that came in was just asking about user pilot, and so thank you for that question, John. So for partners, it is called directory link. So it's the same thing, it's just a different name. So directory link is what links your local Active Directory or your customer's local Active Directory up to the Intermedia Active Directory.
Perfect, great question. And if I use the Unite version of the terms, there's most commonly the PLR version that I just don't recall off the top of my head. I try to mention them both at once, but sometimes forget. But absolutely, directory link with versus the user link, user pilot. So these are ways that we can create these essentially global address lists that then are available to all of our users. Now, that's oftentimes sufficient for a lot of scenarios, but then there's still an individual personal user aspect to the contacts that are available for Unite users, and that's going to be either done through the desktop application, where if we come into our chat window here at the top, we can see, just a moment, the ability to create a new contact is here. choosing it, we'll be able to put in a display name, and at minimum, we'd want to have a phone number. And with the phone number and a display name, now we have a contact that can either be text messaged if it's an SMS enabled endpoint, or called from this desktop application. Any contacts that we create in here in this create new contact step will also be synchronized. Well, let me put it another way. When we create a contact here in the desktop application, we're creating a cloud contact that then the mobile application on iPhone and Android also will then show. So that contact will show up inside the Intermedia Unite or the Elevate application with the contact created here as a local, or rather a personal contact for that user. From that create contact point, you can see at least implicitly that there's not a create multiple contact option here or import contacts. And in fact, if you were to navigate around, you won't find a way to navigate or to populate personal contacts through a local synchronization or a local import to this desktop application. That's not available. So if that was sort of floating in the back of your mind, how would we do that then, or what would be an easy way to bring in a lot of personal contacts, ones that aren't company contacts? That is going to be the value where the Android and the iPhone applications come in strongly with regard to contacts. The desktop application lacks the import capability, but the mobile applications both have the ability to look at the different address books that are available to that particular device, and then take those as shared contacts and present them to the Unite or the Elevate mobile application. And then ultimately those would then synchronize here to the desktop application instance as a personal contact for the user. So in an example here, we have our company contacts filter we were looking at for this reception view, but then we have this personal contacts tab. And when we click in on a user, it'll show up here as a personal contact synchronized from mobile. And because it's synced from mobile, I don't have any editability to this contact. This isn't a contact that is an actual object. It's just being viewed from the mobile synchronization. And then ultimately, once it was viewed, it was put into the personal database that then any of the Unite applications have visibility into. You can see here this Mike from Canton Mills contact on the converse is still a personal contact, but this one is editable. And this is because I created this particular Mike Canton Mills contact inside the desktop application. Again, though, we could see another synced from mobile application contact that is uneditable. So if we wanted to, in fact, update Minnie Driver, in this case, is information for her dial information or other contact information, we'd have to go into the database that's in fact on that particular mobile device that is set up to synchronize to Unite application or the Elevate application and manipulate the address book there, which is the preferred method for that particular function by most folks, is the intended behavior they want and the direction we took it intentionally. So we can see now that we have company contacts, Unite user contacts, and personal contacts available to us in the desktop application. We can get a corporate global address list of contacts pulled in through an administrative function. We can put individual new contacts or bulk load those contacts. So that's a value. We have the ability using the mobile applications to pull in personal contacts in sort of a wholesale manner. And then ultimately, we can create individual personal contacts, both in the mobile application as well as in the desktop application. This sort of new contact function for a new personal contact is, of course, available also in the mobile application. This information is well outlined in multiple different knowledge base articles. And when wondering about contacts, it's very easy to find in our knowledge base. So always like to share the resources that we have available. Anything I've covered and so much more are in these articles. This is a good one here to start with because it has links to many of the other articles, the Intermedia Managing Shared Contacts and Personal Contacts, which is essentially what we just went over. But in much greater detail, and talks to each of the different steps and each of the different methods for all of the different components of contacts. That we didn't want to just sit here and read a knowledge base article by any stretch, but wanted to show you that there are very detailed resources available to you for all of these steps. And as you go through these, you'll find some things that maybe we didn't cover. One that stands out here is this ability to create a conference bridge inside the mobile applications. This is essentially an address book entry that puts in your host pin or your attendee pin to a conference bridge that you attend with regularity. And that way you can one single click into your conference bridge, either as host or as attendee, just as an example of some other pieces that maybe we didn't cover at the initial outline of what I wanted to share today. So this is an available amount or wonderful resource for you. And at the bottom of this, of course, there's going to be links to other articles relevant to contacts. There are other tools and knowledge base articles that with regard to contacts that you have available to you. And in fact, if you just type contacts into the knowledge base search engine, you'll start to see a theme that there's a lot of information on these contacts available to you, which is partly why I think it was confusing in some cases for folks to understand how the contacts were being used inside of Unite. With that, it's what I wanted to show. Let's look at the questions and then see if there's anything else we can add some clarity to.
All right, great. So before we start the questions, I just want to mention to everybody that I did put the links to the 2KB articles that Aaron reviewed into the attendee chat. And so that's available for everybody. You can click on those and keep them for your reference. And thank you for that, Aaron. That was excellent. I appreciate it. And we do have some questions that came in. So we'll go ahead and start those if you don't mind just finishing or stopping your screen share, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, sure, of course.
Thank you. Okay, so do contact lists populate desk phone contacts automatically in addition to the Elevate
app? Great question. And the answer is it's not there's no default. It does not do that by default. And it's not, there's no option for administrators to enable that outside of contacting tech support for them to enable that. So there's some challenges with data. I think essentially there's a reason we don't do it by default, and I don't necessarily have the best technical response as to why. There might be some policy-driven reason to it as well, but we don't today by default allow or enable rather that sync to the phone directory, but it can be done through tech support. There's some more information we can get that, but it's not something that I'm ready to cover in today.
Okay, so if they have questions about it, really the best thing for them to do would be just to reach out to support either via email or phone or whatever your preferred method is.
Right, that'd be a good start.
So Aaron, as you accurately predicted, can users sync Outlook contacts to Elevate using Outlook Desktop, not the mobile?
Yeah, Kip, I think probably this was answered in the little presentation we did, but let's highlight again that this is today. There's no ability to do that from the desktop application, and so to do it, we would rely on the mobile applications for more of that sort of wholesale synchronization of contacts to the Unite user, both, of course, in the mobile and desktop application. I'm wagering a guess here. This isn't something that I'm intimate with knowledge on, that the ability from contacts to be shared and get permissions given within mobile applications is far easier than it is to permission at the Windows operating system level and maybe the Mac OS level. So maybe that's partially why the mobile app is the direction for that sort of group or rather bulk personal contact import / synchronization. In any case, we will rely on those applications. Of course, the applications rely on there being some Outlook application installed on the same smartphone device with an address book that has permissions enabled for other applications to see that address book. Again, sort of harkening back to the potential as to why we went with mobile applications for this particular step or this particular feature, where we can share address books more easily. So again, I probably answered that in the presentation, but that's a little bit more of a long answer there. Great question, Kip.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I'll just add to that also, Kip, that is some feedback that I'm planning on giving to the product development team. And I'm not making promises that they'll add it to the roadmap, but it's certainly something that, you know, we get asked, so I can see a case being made for it to be potentially added at some point in the future. Okay, so from Robert, is there a way to clear out or trim personal contacts? I'm finding most users don't like that the mobile app pulls in all contacts.
Yeah, that's a tougher one, Robert, and a good question. It's not really a contact management platform, as you probably have, kind of alluded from the conversation today, that it's more of just dipping into other databases. So those other databases would be the ideal place for them to manage their contacts, I think, and then choose which applications have accurate contact databases. This is the simple answer. Now that's not always easy, but that's what we have available. There's no good way for our application to mute, let's say, or it's not really a contact management tool. It's looking at existing databases for contacts and then maintaining a simple database. Good question. More good feedback on that one,
Yep.
Kim. We can maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
We could probably give that to. It's a good question, Robert, and at the very least, maybe we can mute certain contacts so they don't show up in both databases. Let's say, for example, might be in just one little direction we could take this. But in any case, it's something worth referring back to our product management team, and we'll absolutely take that. So great question. John, on the side note there, I see your question about the integration with Outlook through Elevate before we move to the next official question, so to speak. That's to the presenters here. There is an integration to Outlook from the desktop application, which is really fundamentally a way for click to call or click to chat to a contact to occur, as well the ability to view presence generated from the Unite desktop application, so on the phone, in the meeting, away, etc., to be pushed into the Outlook, so then Outlook could present in its contact database or within its interface the accurate presence status generated again and sent to Outlook. That's sort of the integration is to Outlook in this particular integration that you're talking about. In any case.
Okay, so let's go on here. So for Herschel, can contacts from mobile be unsynced or removed?
Yes, simple answer is yes, Herschel. And you would essentially go into the mobile application, go to the contacts, and choose the stop sync, or just to toggle the sync from sync to unsync, and then that would then not only would that stop the synchronization, it would then remove all of the applications from the user account, from both the desktop application as well as the mobile application. Absolutely.
Right,
and each individual
right,
application, I'm sorry, last bit on this for Herschel, each application still has its own permissions as to whether or not the Unite and Elevate mobile application can even see their databases. So if for example, you didn't want your Google contacts, but you wanted your Outlook contacts to synchronize, you would be able to disallow from Google the ability for Unite to see its contacts again. So that's sort of the luxury of mobile contacts, is this ability to share and give permissions so fluidly, where we seem to lack that a little bit in the desktop operating systems. In any case, great question, Herschel.
Yeah, absolutely. And works out great timing-wise. We have one last question. So will we ever be able to chat with other Elevate users from other organizations? From Brad.
Brad, man after my own heart with this feature request. John too, apparently. As others. Of course, this has nothing to do with contacts, so nice way to slip this one in, Mr. Thompson. The short answer is federation, as it's maybe commonly referred to when we think back to federating different systems to allow them to communicate across corporate boundaries, is today obviously not available. I haven't seen it on the roadmap, and maybe Kim, who does have a little bit more privy to roadmap than I do, might have some more information on
Mm-hmm.
this, but I haven't even seen it. I have brought it up before, specifically with regard to partners, because if you could be available as sort of the IT support chat icon inside your customers, where if they click it, it gets one of your team, right? I think that's what y'all are asking
Uh-huh.
for, if I were to guess. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
and
getting some
judging by the thumbs
confirmation
up,
on.
I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, in a nutshell, right? There's probably more value, more use cases than that, but that's one of them. Not to mention just interoffice or intercommunication. Uh, uh, we're gonna have to table this one. I wish I wish I had
Mm-hmm.
a better answer because I want this one myself. Um, I don't know how we'll pass this out if we can get this information. Is there a distribution list for those who attend this webinar that we send answers to, Kim, that I'm just
Well,
ignorant
so
to?
everybody is going to get a copy of the recording, and I'm
Right.
absolutely planning on taking all three of the things that we discussed here and sending the information on to product management. Now, if anyone would like me to personally follow up back with them on any of these feature requests that we talked about capturing and getting over to our product team, if you wouldn't mind just send an email to the Tech Titan at intermedia.net, and I'll just show that email address here one more time so that everybody has it. And back a couple slides here. TechTitan at intermedia.net. Just shoot an email over to me at that email address and just say, hey, I'm interested in X feature that was discussed. Can you please let me know if it's going to be on the roadmap? I'll be happy to let you know what product says.